Welcome and thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of InHealth Insights. I'm your host, Naira, and today we are going to be discussing a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, mental health, and specific Black mental health. We are joined by a spectacular guest today, Jason Schenkel, and we're going to dive right into it. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Schenkel. I am the CEO and founder of Ease Self and Wisdom. It's a private therapy practice I've had for 9 years in Park Hill, Denver, where I'm from, and I'm coming back here. Cognitive behavioral therapist. I'm the executive director and founder of the Black Mental Health and Wellness Coalition, where I focus on workshops and focus on initiatives with making more Black male and female clinicians. Finishing up my doctorate. It's time to my dissertation project, Destigmatizing Black welfare excludes racial battle fatigue. In addition to that, I'm an author. My poet name is Black Azar, which just means Black God in Kemetic. Finishing up my 4th book, Notes You Will Never Know. Releasing that under my name, Jason Schenkel, but also because a lot of people know me as Black Azar, and I'll be on the book too. But creativity, but yeah, that's what I'm about.
Okay, so we're going to dive right on into it. Mental health, the Black mental health in specific. What does that look like? What is that?
Yeah, Black mental health. What I've defined that as is the the spiritual exercise that you make sure your spirit is good, your mental health is good. Breaking generational patterns and cycles. And that transcends through relationships. And also, we're talking about Black mental health. We're also talking about how we navigate racial battle fatigue. It's a really, really important thing. It's a really customized thing to us. So it encompasses a lot. It encompasses a lot, but very spiritual work. It's spiritual work. It's mental and in the mind too, but we're talking about Black mental health specifically, right? It is very intricate.
Okay. You said something. I'm so glad that you did because you talked about generational and what the science has shown, has proven, right, is that trauma can be passed on, just like you inherit your parents' eye color, their phenotype, right? You also can inherit your parents, your grandparents, even great grandparents, their trauma.
Yes.
So taking that into consideration, right? How do we as Black people, how do we combat that inherited, that generational trauma?
You have to focus on collective healing. Because epigenetics, the cherry blossom experiment, was a perfect example of that. How that transferred down when they were using rats as an example. When they would smell the cherry blossom, it would be in this invoked fear. We really got to get back into the history of who we truly are, because Black people are the oxygen to human existence, period. I'm also a self-proclaimed historian. You will not find a race that does not have any type of connection to Africa, any type of melanin. You've been here 7 million years, and everybody else and all other races, they are our children. So not only breaking generational curses and working on these pieces, we have to be able to invest our time into reading, invest our time into, intentionally sitting down and breaking the curses, because this is the thing. Generational curses and secrets. There's people that protect the curses. There's family members that protect the curses. If you've ever been at a barbecue somewhere, you saw don't have the kids around Uncle JoJo, but it's just like, so you mean to tell me everybody's on code that this person is molesting children and we're in the family and we keep it as a secret? You see, that's why I'm going straight there. When you say generational, right? How are we going to get to generational peace if we're not acknowledging the generational patterns, cycles, and the curses that people willingly carry?
I can relate to that. Where does that come from, that need to want to protect? I mean, because I remember growing up and being in those type of spaces as well. It's like everybody knew the person to stay away from, right? But nobody openly talked about it, and this person was still welcoming her space. Where does that come from, that need to want to protect and to hold a secret instead of saying, okay, you are detrimental to the collective, and so you're no longer welcome in the space.
It's a psychopathology that comes from white terrorists
Mm.
because supremacy comes from the word supreme. We have to stop calling it white supremacy. There's nothing supreme about it. Supreme needs to be held up high and terrible, with honor. There's nothing honorable about it. It's like that bully that yells, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. At the inception of them, they're really weak. That's why they're yelling so loud. So we need to make that transition from stop calling that white supremacy because that is colonial violence through language. Because we can't spell spelling words, transes. So when you talked about how do we get there, it's white terrorism. We got to stop calling it supremacy because it's not. If you call it supremacy, you're automatically by default putting yourself in an inferior place. And they're the most cowardless people walking around here. You cannot really have effective racism without capitalism. We miss that piece, right? And so to that piece that you were talking about, how does it get there? It comes through white terrorism, right? We weren't brought over here. We were already here. We were already here. This whole place was called Akobula. We were already here. America is only 450 years old. I still have the Doba trees in Senegal, Africa, older than this place. 600-year-old trees, 800-year-old trees. So when you talk about how do we get to that place, it's the psychopathology from white terrorists. Because oftentimes the mothers had to protect the young boys because they had to say, hey, look, I can't have you walking around here like that. And then they're attacking the black man and they attack the homes. They attack the homes. You just seen it today. There is a shift like you was talking about earlier, but just really hitting the nail on the head. This is the cast off from the psychopathology of white terrorists. When we're talking about Black mental health and generational peace, a lot of these terrorists don't even know they're so ill they don't know how sick they are. And it's structural racism. And all these pieces is put into there. That's why they're trying to come up with terminology to discredit the self. It is not discreditable because the truth does not be held. It don't need held. The truth will stand. So talking about that psychopathology that goes into that, right? The minds are incarcerated. You don't beat a person to become a slave. You take their mind and they become a slave, but this isn't true being enslaved and enslaved, which is the reason why they like to take in history and make Black people believe that their history actually began in enslavement. That's pretty fairly new to the world. We're not talking about Yakub and when the more civilized the white people were the Caucasus Mountains in the Dark Ages. They talking about that? You come on now. So when we talk about the psychopathology that goes into this mental incarceration thing is community suffocation of collective healing, we have to talk about all those pieces because generational, there's spells, there's energy. And as you know, growing up in the South and then, Shakerville, Texas is, my people, the first frigate of East Texas, they had lead. We had it for 160 years. And you know how it is, going down there. And think about the psychopathology that goes into no Sunday parents. Yeah, they talking about the sun up towns. Yeah, because we will blow your hair off today. And then it gets to that point, right? So that's why I say, to your question, it really is the psychopathology of white terrorists. It really, really is, because fear is false evidence appearing real. And if you are coming up to your family to be, less than, or we have to navigate in this way, that's rooted in fear. And that's really good. Terrorism.
Okay.
It's just terrorism.
So you touched upon enslavement and sundown towns. And for a lot of people, this seems like something that's far removed from the current restaurant. Why is it not?
There's many accounts that this stuff is still happening. Why has the immaterial bill still been signed, both with paying Koreans and Germans and Ukrainians reparations, and they say they don't have money and all this other stuff. We live around our Black Holocaust. We had active Black Holocaust there that we walk here in Denver, Upper Park Hill. This used to be known as the Heart on the Plex. At one point, it was 90% Black. A lot of people don't know that history. John Coltrane, Donny Hathaway, all of them used to come up and do it. This was known as the Heart of the West.
This was it. Where is this right now? So those people who are watching are not familiar where we are. Where are we right now in Denver?
We're in Denver. We're in downtown Denver. And at one point and at 5 points was the main part because all the roads that there, this was a part of that land. Let us all Black. This is all Black.
Until
the terrorism, like that T-Town energy. I don't know if a lot of people realize this. The first bombs that was ever dropped on this land was 1921 at Tulsa, Oklahoma. Really wrapped the mind around that. And it was by the USA. There's also a town under the Cherry Creek Reservoir here in Colorado. They have built the dam. Make you think about the word dam. It's I'll be down. You know what I mean? It really is colonial biological language. That town was named Melville, Colorado, under the Cherry Creek Reservoir. It was a T-town. They got hospitals and everything. You know how this sounds? This is terroristic. It's like you're walking around the people that have dry blood on their heads. I ain't pushing it. Talk the truth. And when we talk about having the minds incarcerated and speaking specifically to the psychology of the Black mind and the culture and the lack of culture, well, it's that psychopathology. It really is psychopathology rooted in white terrorism, because what does the higher education system teach you? They don't teach you the truth. They don't go back to Africa. They all talk about the livers in the dark ages and we had to civilize them. And the Moors and Noble Drew Ali, Clarence 13 X Allah, Fard Muhammad, or Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I guarantee you when you sit down with white people and they talk about their lack of culture because they're really culture vulture, they're not going to go through this type of stuff. They got people like Lyndon Johnson that was a no Deborah hauling hits out and naming Fred Hampton in the side. That's the thing that's did. This is psychopathic. So when we're talking about customized Black mental health, we have to talk about these basics. You can't spell wealth without the words of health. You move that H and could have done it as well. There's something to this wealth and health space. It's really is that deep. It's customized. It really is.
And so when you have been a victim of racial terrorism, well, how's that manifest itself? Like, what behaviors can relate to that? When you see a person engaging in certain behaviors, how can you link that, say, oh, this is directly as a result of the racial terrorism that they, not just the individual has experienced in their own lifetime, that the generational experiences of that type of terrorism?
Yeah, it shows through like silent burnout, especially if you're working in corporate jobs and you're constantly dealing with people that are known not to do their job, and just because they're white, then it's the Willow Boys Club, they concentrate more on you than they own damn job. That creates a lot of stress. A lot of stress. And there's a book named Black the Tea as how it erodes the spirit. My first thing is Mary. I forgot her last name. It's the Black woman that bought this book. She does a great job at breaking this stuff down. And another way how this transferred through is a term called John Henryism. The full war with that, he went up against the machine and he won. That's the reason why when Black will walk around saying I'm grinding, that's colonial bias to language, because what happens when you hit a spike into a stone, it grinds. It grinds away. And that dust is your spirit. And it's called John Henryism. That's what that's called.
Okay, I've never heard of that before, John Henryism, but I'm very familiar with that terminology, grinding. Yeah. Because it's been popularized, right? I got to get on my grind.
Yeah, grinding away,
and they make it seem. But also, it has been not as popularized, but made something that is something that we should all aspire to. Get on your grind.
We are so great. We always do that.
Is there good stress and bad stress?
Yeah, I would say that there is, stress is a part of the human experience. You're going to experience a wide range of emotions. But the thing is, who is willing to sit and understand? That's the piece. If you're constantly stressed out and you're not able to name it to detain it, you're going to see the indicators of your relationships and how you have a relationship with yourself. Yeah.
Let's talk about that relationship with the self. Let's dig into that because we often talk about relationship between a mother and a child or spousal relationships. The relationship that you have at your job, but we don't really focus a lot of attention on relationship with yourself.
Yeah, because some people are so terrified of relationships and growth is because they really don't like themselves. Some people are mad at you because they really mad at themselves. That type of stuff, and being able to identify that and go, man, look, I flew here with one luggage and a carry-on. If you're leaving with 5 bags, those aren't damn yours. You need to put that in. Those ain't your bags.
So what does that look like, right? When you're engaging with someone, you said to identify. What do you look for? How do you identify that when someone, doesn't have a good relationship with themselves?
But it first starts with you knowing that you have a good relationship with yourselves, right? You can kind of go, okay, that you got to be able to identify when somebody is projected out, projection. And even if you're owning things that are not yours, some things are meant to be leased. Oh, I'm involved in this. You didn't like what I did, but it's evidence you're gaslighting me and you put this on me as if I harmed you and I did it because that's your self-advocacy. You cannot get to change without accountability. You think to get to responsibility without accountability. And you will see it in their action. You gotta go, man, one of the biggest indicators is that lack of accountability. It's just like, ain't no accountability here.
And give us an example of what a lack of accountability looks like. So for our viewers, those who are listening to this conversation, they can say, "Oh, okay, I experienced that when XYZ happened, and Brother Jerome did this to me or said this to me." What does that look like when a person lacks accountability?
Oh, an example that comes to my mind is like someone that is insecure. Insecurity is an inside job. There's nothing you could do outside that person to make them totally feel secure within themselves if they're not willing to take the accountability of why they're insecure. So example of that could be like, hey, look, faithful to you. I've been showing behavior, everything like that, but no matter what, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that. But it's like, okay, well, let's step back and see what you're doing. Oh no, I will do that. I will do. Oh, okay. Well, you looked at hop on it, didn't get your mouth. Either you going. So you mean to tell me you doing infractions that you're up here policing me about? Now, what is it about me that is giving off that I don't demand respect, and I have to have boundaries, and boundaries don't work without respect? So what make you think if you could just sit and just push this nonsense out to me and talk about accountability and you ain't even touching the letter A yet? You see what I'm saying? That's a reflection. That's an indicator, right? This is not a gotcha moment, but after a while, you start to see patterns. You just kind of go, damn, man, my spirit is really drained. This person's an energy vampire. Something's going on because love is not enough. Love is not enough.
We hear that all the time, that love is enough.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's not.
It's not enough. There's so many other components.
Such as?
Compassionate understanding within yourself and this unconditional versus conditional. I challenge that to you. And what the Black community, unconditional means I can do any damn thing I want to you because you unconditionally love me. I got a license.
Okay.
No.
And where does that stem from?
Where does that stem from? All my experiences in life and reading all about love by Bell books. I'm seasoned. I've been around vibe and learning about love because you think about it, it really is. My love does have conditions. So when I say conditions, not the negative connotation to it, that's what I'm saying. We have to break out of this colonialized use of language. It's compassionate conditions. No, you can't just disrespect me and step all over me.
But where does the idea that we should love unconditionally come from? What is that rooted in? What's the impetus behind it?
It probably is rooted in religion. Because you mean to tell me we live around our Black Holocaust, and because Black folks is going to church, you just got to just forgive your enemy and just do all this other stuff. And then they're constantly making terrorism. So turn the cheek. You turn the cheek. And then what you got to turn your ass cheeks. And then you turn your ass. You're going to run out of cheeks to turn. I mean, let's be serious here. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, I'm very practical like that. And the word religion comes from a word religio. Before they assassinated the Latin language, religio means to have your mind binding up. Look it up. That's literally what religion comes from, the word religio, to have your mind binded up without you having the ability to use your reason mind.
Okay.
Like Malcolm X said that on his birthday, he could be 100 today. Who taught you that? Who taught you to hate your hair? Who taught you to hate your lips? Who taught you to hate your character? Who taught you to hate your Who taught you to hate the land that they stole it from you? Who taught you that? Just run it. Who taught you that? Who taught us this? Like you said earlier, you don't want to read.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on.
So, what are some things that Black people can do to protect their mental health? And for those who want to move into a healing space, right? What are some of the things that they can do?
I would say, nail the morning, get up and have a routine. And this is out of my recipe book, but I say people, especially Black folks in these circles, whatever you practice becomes your habits. Your habits become your routines. Your routines become your rituals, and you cannot spell spiritual without ritual. You can't spell it without it. So what are the things that you're practicing consciously for your soul? Are you doing soul work? Are you doing shadow work? So some other practical things is like journaling, finding a therapist, looking for, like-minded individuals in the community that's, if you are in the spirituality, it's in those things, it really does start within you. A lot of this stuff is equipment free, like getting up, lighting incense, getting up, drinking spring water, getting up, taking your black seed oil. That's another thing that we're gonna talk a lot about is the warfare on food against us. You know what I mean? Like that gets like we have everything we need inside of us. I mean, taking care of your diet too. All those pieces. But as I said, it gets to the spiritual. So it's really, what are you feeding your spirit? That's where it begins. It's not like, oh, let's read this book and then it's a magic bully. No, 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 no. What are you practicing?
There is a stigma around mental health and mental well-being in the Black community, particularly as it relates to getting help.
Oh, yeah.
And especially for Black males. So it is very important that we have this conversation.
Yes.
Goodness. Yeah, because especially our young men, they do not want to get help because they see it as as a blight against them, as though they're saying that something is wrong with me, right? I'm,
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And I'm doing a lot of intentional Black male-made events. I have Black Man Heights coming up. We're going to be doing a capoeira and Qigong.
Black Male Heights, you said?
Black Man Heights.
Okay.
And then also I do.
That's some of your workshop?
No, that's just going to be us Black men getting together, going up in the mountains, hiking. And then there's a brother that's he does capoeira, and he's a Chinese medical doctor, Black dude from Louisiana. And then also I do Qigong at the park. Qigong is the creator of Tai Chi, yoga, all this other. They started in that. That's just a fact. It's not up for debate or discussion. Look it up and just do what you got to do. With his name Qigong. And Qigong is the first inception before Taekwondo, Tai Chi, all of that. It comes from Qigong. It's an African practice.
Okay.
So I do Qigong, Black Men Qigong at City Park once a month.
Where's City Park? That's by the zoo, right?
Right by the zoo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And daughters come out, and it was just
when do you do this? It's on Saturdays, you said?
typically every first Saturday with Qigong.
Okay.
Black
And what time?
or 3 to 5.
Okay.
53 to 5. But I could pop the fires out. They just follow the Eventbrite. You know, if you on Eventbrite, just type in the Black Mental Health and Wellness Coalition and just click follow, because I put these workshops up, but it'll remind you. But yeah, that I'm very teaching about that space for us. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, some good information, and I definitely will be bringing my sons to attend. Again, I've been your host, Naira, and I look forward to you joining us again on InHealth Insights. Stay healthy in the meantime.